Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to our virtual Copilot briefing session. So let's just get started. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us at this virtual Copilot briefing session. All right, we have a pretty good crowd with us today. So let's just get started. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us at this virtual Copilot briefing session. So my name is Catherine Kwan. I'm with the marketing team here at ProServeIT. And joining me today is our special guest, Jamie McMahon, our CTO of ProServeIT. So we do have a really great session ahead. And typically how we've been running these sessions in the past is that we would dive right into the content and then go see Copilot in action. But for today, it will be a little different as I wanted to invite Jamie here to showcase the art of the possible with AI. So he will show you a couple of capabilities on how you can leverage AI inside your business. And then I'm going to take you through a day in a life with Copilot. So I hope that sounds good. If you do have any questions during our session, feel free to always use our chat. Our team will be monitoring it to get them answers. If you do have any audio or visual issues, you can always just drop and then come back again. And then lastly, just to note, we will be removing any AI note takers from this meeting as well. So with that, I will let Jamie kick us off.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. And I think where we sit today with AI, and probably everyone here doesn't need me to go into what's AI or what's ChatGPT or what's Copilot. We've probably been inundated with tons of information around that. But what I find sometimes is there's a gap is around where do I go next, or what does it look like? Because with AI right now, there's kind of two primary work streams, if you want to call it that, or two primary use cases. One is productivity, which Catherine's really kind of jump into what looks at Copilot. And the other is really thinking about innovation. And that's the piece I wanted to speak at to a little bit, because innovation, I think, is where we look at what AI and the impact it can have to your business beyond Copilot. And most businesses we find do start on that productivity use case because the impact is immediate, the risk is low, complexity is low. And so it's just a really great launch pad and a good point to get your businesses thinking in an AI mindset and exposed to AI technology. But sometimes it's also good to say, like, where am I going? What can we actually do? Why am I even going to invest in Copilot if I might see the ROI immediately? I need to understand the destination. So that's really what it is today. So we're going to do that through a bit of show and tell and a bit of storytelling. So we have a number of customers now that are looking for AI to say, okay, how can I use this to actually drive automation inside of our business, for example? We work with, for a company, a company that does drivers validation. And so what's really important for them is when they have people that can come in, they need to be able to look at driver's license and validate and make sure that this person's actually who they say they are, the driver's license is valid, is still current. And right now that check is done in a very manual capacity. And so they were looking for ways in which they could automate that. Okay. So just to give you a sense for what that looks like, I'm going to take over the screen sharing here. And this might look like a bit of an eyesore in terms of a page, but really where we are is where all of like the innovation tied to Azure and OpenAI happens beyond Copilot. So from here, we have access to all sorts of different AI models, Llama, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and of course the Microsoft ones. But when I was given that use case before, you can see that there's a number of things I have the ability to default from a vision and document perspective. So I can have my models in Azure pre-built to look for things like invoices, identity documents, credit cards, contracts, all sorts of different things. So if I go to the identity documents, can you hear me okay, Catherine? All right, just making sure that I'm coming through loud and clear. So as an example here, I have a West Virginia driver's license. And obviously this is just like a sample piece of content. But what I'm able to do is I can actually run AI and have it validate a whole bunch of information here. And you can see that it's going to go and find, for example, the address. It thinks the address is on Main Street, which is correct. The country it feels is in the USA, date of birth, etc. And you'll notice beside those addresses and those pieces, there's these things called confidence scores. So basically that's the AI describing how confident it is that what it's articulating here as an address, for example, is actually an address. And similarly for the country region and all of the rest of the data that exist here. And so you'll see that the country has a high confidence And so AI feels that, or the Azure Identity AI service has high confidence that this is actually a license that is from the USA, but it has middle to low confidence. You can see it's red here in this. I'm not that red is correlated to bad, but you can see that this score is 58%. And that's basically because you'll notice that this address here probably doesn't really look like a real address. There's no street number. I'm not sure if that's actually the postal code for Charleston. And so because there's no street number and this looks fishy as that it might not actually be real, it has a lower confidence score. And so what this means is I can do all sorts of use AI to look at other types of things like contracts and invoices, or I can even create my own. And again, I'm clicking through this rather quickly just so you can get a sense for the art of the possible. And I can go in and look at, I have right here in Ontario, drivers, I think this is an ownership form. And you can see it's got a bunch of information here. And so this is actually using real data versus the sample one, because I find sometimes the sample ones, it doesn't look real. Is that actually working or not? This one, I figured, let's upload real documents, right? And what I'm asking it to do is, for this piece of information, tell me the make of the vehicle and the name of the driver listed. And you can see the way that I'm doing that is this field description tab. This is actually AI. The only thing I'm asking it to do is give me the name of the driver. And I didn't give it any more information than that. Just give me the name of the driver. And I'm expecting AI to be able to understand what I want, look at this license, and tell me the answer that I'm expecting. So let's give that a go. So again, I've gone in and updated this sample vehicle permit, the vehicle ownership form, and you'll notice it goes through 10 seconds or so to see the results. It's identified that the vehicle make is a Honda. You can see that right here. And that the name of the person on this is actually Thomas B. Harlan. Another way to look at this is when you get into a little bit more complicated things. So we work with a HVAC company, and they do HVAC for high-rise condominiums. And one of the ways in which the estimation for their buildings is by the number of sprinkler heads that exist in the building, because I guess there's a correlation between the number of sprinkler heads and the amount of HVAC work that needs to happen, because I guess they also try and make them go side by side. And they have actual individuals whose job it is to go around, count their sprinkler heads, look at those locations and validate, and that's how they do a lot of their estimation. So what I've done is I've just taken someone to the driver's license. I just went on the internet and I just found, well, this isn't a condo schematic. I had trouble finding one that was clear and I was allowed to use, didn't have the watermarks, etc. But you'll notice here that this is basically a house and it's describing all of the fire suppression systems that are going to be in place. So go back to my similar questions here. I wanted to tell me, based off the schematic, how many sprinkler heads are there? I have a description for what I'm asking for, who the company is that's doing this drafting. And I just wanted to see, can it tell me the size of the pipe that's being recommended? So similarly, if I go and I have it run its course, what we're going to get back is it's going to read this document, view this document, and be able to interpret the number of sprinkler heads, the company name of the organization that's running this, which I think this actually is a bit off here, but that's okay. Again, we're just doing this to sample the capability. And then what I thought was interesting is you can see here that it's determining the pipe size, because right here it's saying it's a 1 1/4 inch pipe from the basement to the next floor. And therefore it's on this diagram, finding that one piece of text and being able to answer the question around pipe size. I'll give one last view with this and I'll describe maybe why we should care about this. So there's this capability here called dense captioning. And again, I want you to think about this from the perspective of your business and where you've got similar things that might fit into this workflow. We have the ability here where we can upload content and just have AI tell us what it thinks about the information. And so I've uploaded that same schematic that you saw before, and now it's telling me without any prompting, I didn't queue this up. It just knows based off looking at this is a diagram of a fire sprinkler system. We've got a blueprint of a house. We've got a map of the city. We've got a diagram of a swinger and insulation calculator. I don't think that's a calculator, right? So it's not perfect. We'd obviously want to tune this. But again, when we think about what is the art of the possible, when we look at the two use cases for where we think AI is going to play a role in our business, We have that productivity side, again, which Catherine's going to talk about as it relates to Copilot. But we also have this innovation piece, which I think is important for us to recognize that A, those two are distinct, and B, there's actually a really clear path to how we can look at and think about innovation inside of our business today. That's not sci-fi. It's actually something that we could do with, I won't say no effort, but without a crazy amount of effort to get it where it's actually able to interpret large amounts of data. Think of contracts, architecture diagrams, receipts, anything that we want, that we know that typically people are really good at reading, understanding. We're at the point now where AI is able to fill a lot of those gaps and add that value inside of our business. So that made Catherine, if we can flick it back to the presentation.
Yep.
And I did that in a very whirlwind capacity on purpose, because I know that today's really here to talk about Copilot. But again, I feel that sometimes it's important to understand what the art of the possible is, where things can go. I throw this up, not necessarily as an advertisement per se, but we do get the question around what do we do? How do we prove out some of these things? So we do have an offer, we do have a package, and we work with businesses in a rapid format. So less than 3 days, try and do what I just showed you on the screen, but leveraging actual real life value or data survey that your business has, just to make sure that we can functionally prove it out with your specific use case in mind, with your specific content. So I'm not going to run through this. I think Catherine might have a conversation about this near the end of the presentation, but just to connect the dots into art of the possible and what's my first step there, we wanted to make sure you understood what that looks like. So that I will turn it back over to Catherine.
Thank you, Jamie, for that really inspiring showcase of AI's potential. So we are going to dive in now into the heart of today's session, which is an inside look at a day in a life with Copilot. As I was looking through everyone's journey with Copilot, as when everyone submitted their registration, I noticed that a lot of the majority said that they have licenses, but they need to learn how to use it better. So I thought for today, I would show you just how I even use Copilot on a day-to-day basis within the different Microsoft 365 apps, and then even how it helps me save time. So we're going to start off with Outlook, right? We normally all start our days looking at our emails. Copilot can open up in Outlook, and it's a very friendly user face, right? It's like just having the chat right beside you. Now, I like to start off my day with just asking Copilot, do I have any action items in my email that I need to follow up in the past week? It doesn't even need to be the past week. Let's say it could be even today or yesterday, or let's say you were on vacation. We can ask Copilot, look at my unread emails, and what do I miss? Do I need to follow up on anything? So now Copilot's going to go through my email and just check any of those action items. I need to follow up on anything. As you can see, I do have several from the past week, some next steps from an April report, a training for sales that I could register for. Even I see some podcast information. Now, what's really helpful with Copilot is that, as you can see, there are these tiny little numbers. And what Copilot is actually doing is picking that email and telling me this is where I got this information from. So let's say I need to go look at this Copilot training. I can hover over this and I can click this, and Copilot will open up that training that potentially that I want to take a look at. Maybe I want to take this training for sales. So I can look at that really quickly versus scrolling through all the millions of emails that we all get every day. Copilot can summarize that really nicely for us. Something I find really helpful too is we all have this flag in our emails. Let's say I wanted to do this today. Let me just flag this email. I have it flagged today. I can go back to my email and actually go to my to-do list, which is this check mark right here. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend you do, because now you can see there's a tab here that says flagged emails. If I click that, you'll see I have some stuff flagged for today. And that was the email that I just flagged. And now I can add maybe a reminder to register for that training. I can even add a file, for example. And as you can see, it has that email right here. So it's easy for me to just look at what I need to get done with my day and even add some notes as well. So maybe just a tip for you. Maybe you didn't know before, but it's really helpful that you could do this. All right. And then, so yeah, this just really keeps me organized with my day. What I will sometimes do as well is I can even ask Copilot. Maybe I don't want to read everything as this bunch. Maybe I just want to say convert these tasks in a table because it's really easy for me to visualize. So right now I have my task, the description, and then even the contact person in the status that everything is pending. I know it's still smushed here, but it does give an easier read versus, oh, 1 second, versus everything up here. A lot of text, at least now I can see a table this way. I believe you can even pop out Copilot too. I can't remember how, but I'm pretty sure there's a way, maybe not. There is a way where you can make Copilot a big screen though. So one tip, or I guess a few with Outlook. So that's how I like to start my day. And then maybe going back into Teams. So we're going to go take a look at Teams. Let me just open up a new desktop here. All right. So we're going to look at Teams now because I think sometimes some people don't really use Teams as often. But even just within a meeting that we're in, if it's transcribed, sometimes you can even pull up Copilot here and ask what has even been discussed so far. Let's say you missed the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes and it was recorded. Copilot can pull up that information. We have the session introduction. Jamie showed some AI capabilities. I just recently showed Outlook. So it does have that in real time of what was discussed. And it does have those transcript marks. So it's easy for you to reference when you go back to this. Now, this doesn't even have to be a meeting that's happening right now. Let's say it was a meeting that just happened. It was recorded. We can go back and ask Copilot questions about that meeting. And another thing I'd like to show is, let's say I'm in my chats, very similar thing. I was asking Copilot a couple of things here. I have an event coming up. I don't have to scroll through the whole chat. I can just ask Copilot, recap what is needed for the events in New York City. As you can see, it's summarized, what is needed. I saw that there's a packing list for the New York City dinner. I asked even Copilot, show me that packing list. And really quick, it pulled up that message. So I don't even have to scroll all the way up. And then another last one I just wanted to show, very similar. I have a weekly sync with my colleague Onyeka, and we do like to recap our meetings. Here's my weekly sync with him. I can go and look at all those meetings that we've recorded. Let's say it was May 7th. I remember we talked about some website stuff. So since we had it transcribed, we have this AI summary here, and I can look at some website management items. Again, I can also open up Copilot and then now ask it, give me a recap of what I need to work on now for website management. Now I can see some graphics for blogs, some theme changes, and even finalizing some of this content. So really easy, get caught up to speed, catch up. And I now reduce my time of even just searching for information. All right, so that was Teams. Let's move back to Word. So let's say I am now creating a new web page because we're talking about website management. I need to create a new web page. I can go to Copilot, at least in Word, and ask, give me a list of steps and actions to make a new web page about that page that is about a resource hub for Microsoft 365 Copilot. So that's the new page we want to create. I can ask Copilot to generate all those steps and tips. So as you can see, define the objective, plan it, design the page, so on. There's a bunch of different steps. Again, like I said, I'm much a visual person. Let me see this in a table. Oh, let's keep this. Sorry. Now let's just ask Copilot, turn this into a table. But I'm even now asking, give me the section, give me a task, have a section with owner and the due date. So with this, I like to do planning here more to keep me more organized, right? I didn't actually include all the steps. Let's see if we can try to do that. Include all steps from 1 to 9. Let's see if we can revise that. Again, like you can see, Copilot sometimes still makes its hiccup. So it is something you do need to revise. And as you can see here, we have step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really easy. We have this table now. Now, to take this even a step further, Anyeka and I like to use Loop. If you don't know what Loop is, I would say it's like a hybrid of Teams and OneNote. And as we like to start planning for our website management task, that this table is a very good starting point on our plan. So I can paste this into a Loop component. And as you can see, it easily pasted this start of our project plan. And the owner, let's say, now let's be more specific. I want to add Anyeka here. Think, wait once. There we go. Anyeka, we're going to put him here, and maybe let's select this a due date, a specific due date, right? Let's say May 29th, for example. Now that I have this component, something that I find really helpful is I can copy this table and I can actually bring it back into Outlook. And let's say now I want to email this plan to Anyeka that I just briefly created. And I can paste that component right into our email. As you can see, it has that full component here. And let's say now for research and planning, I want that to be myself. So I can make these changes here. I'm the graphic designer. Let me make that as an owner. If I go back to the loop, you'll see it's actually changing at the same time. So as we start planning, if we want to make changes in that thread, it'll actually update the loop in real time, which is really helpful for collaboration too. All right. So that is something, another tip for you. Now I'll move on to Microsoft Chat. So this is Copilot Chat, and this is probably what I use almost daily, specifically for contextual browsing with Copilot. Doing research, finding information, I find is very helpful. So now let's say as I was making that Copilot resource hub, I assigned myself to do the research and planning. Let's just start off by asking Copilot, what even is it? Can you cite your sources so I can do further research? I'm not going through Google really quick. Copilot will give me everything that I need to know, how to access it, key capabilities, what even is it? And again, very similar to what we saw, you have those references that you can open up for easy browsing as well. What I do like to always show is something I find very helpful is using Copilot in the Edge browser. You can open up Copilot just similar to what we saw in Outlook and Teams. It opens up as a side panel, and this is a long page. Maybe I don't want to read it. Just create a summary of this page. What is it about? Is this the page that I'm looking for? It talks about examples, benefits, next steps. So as you can see, I'm building up my research really quickly. And then even I was making a resource hub. Maybe I can just continue asking Copilot, do you even have any additional resources I can read on Copilot? Right? A success kit, adoption guide, plans for enterprises, right? I can continue my research. Copilot's still with me. So it's really easy still for doing some browsing and some research. And then let's say I wanted to add a specific ebook to my resource hub. How about an ebook or an infographic that I can share? And here we have Copilot step-by-step, an infographic. If I click this, here we have a specific ebook. Maybe that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Let's try this infographic. So as you can see, there's a couple of things. Maybe I have to be more specific with my prompt. Maybe I should say, I'm actually looking for an ebook about Copilot from Microsoft, something like that. So I think this was the one I was actually looking for, which is the ebook that I can download. So really quick, I just found what I needed just with the help of Copilot. Last thing that I'd like to show, and I actually discovered this yesterday, and I thought it'd be really great to actually share that with the audience today, because I find image generation sometimes can be hard with AI, but Copilot actually does a not bad job right now, or Microsoft does. So how I got here is within Copilot. I click that, and here it has the chat, which is what you saw me using. And then I have a create tab. This create tab is actually, I think, Microsoft's way of creating images. So also just to add on this, with this imaging, you can actually put your own brand colors into it too. So that's what I have here with my brand kit. But there are specific colors we can choose. So I'm really hoping it's not. But when I tried it, the vector style images that it gave me, because that's really the style ProServeIT uses, it was actually really good. Something that I would even download off like Shutterstock or any stock photo. But I'm curious what cinematic will look like.
While it's doing that, just to wrap this into real, I was actually doing this yesterday. I was talking to Catherine about it just before, where we're running a sales promotion or like a sales campaign, and we wanted to create a poster to like describe the campaign that we're running. And so I went through this kind of very similar process to what Catherine was doing here, but tied it to some of our brand promise and some of the themes that we were working for. And again, does a really good job, and you can make it, as you saw. Again, I haven't done that cinematic or photorealistic for those images. I found that typically we use the cartoony, more cartoony styles, but that's what's been successful for us.
I had to try again because there was an error, but that's kept what happening yesterday to me. But I can pull up the image that I created yesterday if it doesn't work again. I also see, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. Let me pull up what I created yesterday with it. Yeah. It did take me a couple of times to try it, but that's okay. Let me show you what I created yesterday. So this was the first image that I actually created with it. And I thought it was not bad, but I did just take it into Illustrator right after and fix the coloring of it. So it did give me a really nice base, which I thought was pretty good. I think I asked, give me a team of people walking with industries in the background, something like that. So it was really good. And then I tried it again because I really liked how it worked. And this was the other image I created. I even told it specifically, give me half of this left side with kind of chaos. And then the right side has a happy customer kind of thing. I didn't like, and then I tried again and I ended up with this. I'll probably pull it into Illustrator again and fix it, the coloring, but it did give me a really nice image that I was happy with. So that was kind of it for my day in a life kind of demo. Hopefully that was helpful and you learned something, even if it was just like a tip. I'm happy that you learned something with that. If you do have something you have in mind for an AI proof of concept, we're happy to work that out with you in just a couple of days. Then we'll wrap up today's session, and I hope everyone has a great day. And thank you again for joining us.